start with you, Howard, and we're talking dark skies here, and this is something you've been keen on, and I think Nigel's been talking about as well. Just first off, but people thinking, well, dark skies, above dark skies. When we talk about dark skies from the context of astronomy, what exactly do we mean by that?
We're looking at the idea that the night sky is part of our We're looking at the idea that the sky is part of our natural heritage. The heritage of the heavens, if you call it, is as old as the landscape. And we in the Isle of Man are blessed with fantastic clear skies. And that's something I don't think we really appreciate or were aware of until a few years ago. And over the last few years, we've now established 26 specific dark sky discovery sites on the Isle of Man. And this is starting to get more and more recognition, which is why Nigel is over here in particular.
So this is something celebrating the Manx or the Isle of Man's dark skies then, Nigel?
It absolutely is. As Howard says, you've in the Isle of Man have been pioneers, and Howard has very much led the way here. There are other dark sky sites throughout Britain, ranging from Exmoor right up to Scotland, but the Isle of Man has got more than anywhere else, which is why I'm here to do a little promotion for the dark skies in the Isle of Man. And also it's very pleasant for me to come over and visit. I've had a wonderful welcome.
So they're getting relatively rare now then across Britain to find a really good spot where you can actually pick out the Milky Way. You're really getting minimal amount of background light interference.
Yes, well, street lights are spreading everywhere and along motorways and in built-up areas, and we've now got people are replacing the low efficiency street lights with these LED lights, which are brighter. They use less electricity, but they put more blue light into the sky, and the blue scatters around, so these new street lights are actually worse for seeing. But there was an initiative started many years ago. Back in 1990, we had a National Astronomy Week, of which I was the chairman, and we highlighted light pollution as being a target we should be looking at. And around the country now, other people have picked up on the baton and carried it on. So I'm delighted that although the cities may be getting worse, sad to say, there are places we can go to see the sky.
Is it a bit of an uphill battle? Because I dare say a lot of people will think, unless they're astronomers, will think, oh gosh, I want to see where I'm going. They love people now like lighting their gardens, doing garden features, lighting the outside of their houses. It's very cheap to do it now. Is it a real problem?
It's a real problem, yes, because there is this idea that it's safer when you've got lights at night. Now, if you look at the statistics, you don't get any more road accidents when you have dark streets. And if you look at crime, this is the other thing. People think that if you've got lights, security lights or street lights, there's going to be less crime. But the statistics actually show the opposite. When you've got light around, criminals can find their way around. If you've got bright security lights with dark shadows, burglars can see what they're going for and they can hide in the shadows. Even personal attacks are no worse in dark regions than they are when you've got a brightly lit campus at a university where people can actually hide in the shadows. So that cutting light pollution, creating dark skies, is actually a win-win situation, because we get a better view of the sky and we also save money in terms of the electricity that we burn. And just to give you a couple of facts and figures, it's reckoned that across Europe, €2 billion is wasted every year in light that goes into the sky. So I'm not talking about light that goes down the ground. It's useful light that's totally wasted against the sky. It costs €2 billion in Europe, $2 billion in the United States. Those are the big figures that people have worked out.
Which is a phenomenal amount of money. So do we need, or is there a move to sort of change primary legislation, or is it just awareness of people saying, well, look, you don't need all this light around your property, around your municipal park, whatever? Is it just changing mindsets rather than changing legislation?
It's a bit of both. I mean, there is nuisance legislation. If your neighbour has got light coming into your garden, that can be nuisance. In the same way as your neighbour plays loud pop music late at night. But that's quite difficult. I mean, what we'd much rather do is not go to the law on it, but actually get people to realise that it's in everybody's interest to have less light around, and do a grassroots campaign, as Howard is doing so successfully here in the Isle of Man, to get people to realise what the problem is and to voluntarily want to do something about it.
So what can you actually see then if you go to a good dark sky site like we do have on the Isle of Man here? And a lot of people might be thinking, well, you know, what's so special about having a slightly darker sky? What can you see that you wouldn't be able to see, say, if you're, looking from the middle of Birmingham, the middle of London?
First of all, there's a wow factor. If you go out in a city, you can pick out some star patterns. You can see the Plough, you can see Orion or the Hunter, you see the brighter stars. But when you go out on a really dark night, as we have here, it's just literally thousands of stars. The whole sky is just full of stars, and you'll see the Milky Way. Now, most people who live in cities don't see the Milky Way, that glowing band of light going across the sky. They don't know what you're talking about. If I go to a school and talk about the Milky Way, they don't know what I'm saying. But when you see it, it is just a feature of the sky. And the sky is very much a natural part of our environment. We look around, people think about the landscape, but that's only half of what we have. We have the skyscape, which is the beauty of what's up there. So there is a beauty of it. There's the fascinating interest of it. If you go out and you look at the night sky, you've got Orion, the mighty hunter. Now the star in the corner, the top left corner, Betelgeuse, is red. You can see it's red. It's a giant star. It's so big that if you put it in the solar system, the Earth will orbit inside the star, and it's going to explode. We don't know when, a few thousand years' time, and then it's going to go with a bang. It's going to appear brighter than the moon in the sky. So you can talk to people. It's not just about seeing what's up there, but it's understanding what the universe is about, and we can see it and experience it for ourselves.
And what sort of, do you think there's been a boom and an increase in astronomy, and on one way it's very accessible. Everyone can now put an app on their phone and just hold their phones up and you can see where everything's going on. Do you think that's helped to boost an interest in astronomy, or do people become sort of armchairs astronomer where they can just sit and look at their phones rather than actually getting out there and really seeing it for themselves?
There's absolutely room for both. I mean, what I've seen over my lifetime in astronomy is that it goes in cycles. Back in the 60s, we had the space race, which wasn't strictly about astronomy, but people, and Patrick Moore on television doing the sky at night, everyone went out and looked. Then it all faded away again in the 70s. Halley's Comet came around in the 1980s. People got really excited. Then it faded away again. At the moment, I'm very pleased to see there's a boom. And we get people like Brian Cox on television, and we get, say, these apps. We get the Stargazing Live again on television. So I mean, lots of people are out looking, and I'm hoping we're getting a critical mass now that people will realise that what is up there in the sky. And I talk to primary school children a lot, and they are really excited. They love going out camping. I go to camps and I can show them my laser pointer what's up there in the sky, and I'm hoping they're going to take that away with them. It'll stick with them for the rest of their life. Because I started when I was about 8. I went out and saw a beautiful sky, and it stuck with me for life.
Indeed, I think it becomes a lifelong passion, and I must pick you up on you slipped in quietly at the beginning. And future astronaut, and this is something you signed up for Virgin Galactic.
I did it back in 2009. I signed up with Virgin Galactic because, I mean, again, going back into ancient history, in the 1960s, I remember the space race, so I could remember the astronauts landing on the moon, and that really got me. So partly seeing the sky, partly thinking about space, but I thought to myself, okay, Nigel, I'm not the right stuff. I mean, I'm British, and it's only Americans and Russians who fly into space. I'm a bit nerdy. I'm not ever going to be a fighter pilot or a test pilot, and my eyesight isn't very good. I never thought I'd go into space. Then along comes Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic, and I suddenly think, dream of a lifetime. I can do it in my lifetime. So I've signed up. I'm number 245 in the queue. But good news is 6 passengers on each flight, so that should be flight 41 or something like that, and we hope this year 2018 they're going to be getting an astronaut in space on the Virgin Galactic space plane for the first time.
Gosh.
And then the passenger flights hopefully will start end of this year, maybe early next year.
And so you think that, because it's one of those ones where it always seems to be just getting knocked back all the time, doesn't it? It's obviously a highly complex thing. It's not something that's an easy one to do, and every year you hear it's just about to start, it keeps getting knocked back. Are you confident that we will see in our lifetimes, in essence, space tourism?
We absolutely will. Not just in our lifetimes, but in the very near future. With Virgin Galactic, we had a huge setback 3 years ago when we had an accident, although the space plane was flying in the atmosphere. But that turned out, sadly, to be pilot error. There was no problem with the actual space plane itself. So obviously the control systems have been redesigned now, and test flights are going on now in the atmosphere. So yes, that program is all going ahead. But it's not just Virgin Galactic. There's a company called Blue Origin, which is keeping a very low profile, but then Richard Branson keeps a high profile. This is set up, Blue Origin, by Jeff Bezos, who founded Amazon, and he's putting his money into a similar thing to Richard. So it'll go up above the atmosphere, just 100 kilometres up, with 6 passengers and come back down again. And he's tested his rocket and his capsule. He hasn't sent people up, but that system is all working really well. And that's just little hops into space. And of course, on the bigger scale, we remember SpaceX. You saw Elon Musk's Roadster being launched towards Mars the other day. I mean, that's a big rocket. And they're going to be taking people up to the International Space Station later this year. Boeing is going to be launching crews under contract to NASA, like a space taxi. And there's like the Uber of space. SpaceX and Boeing are going to be just taking people up to the space station for commercially. So commercial space is really going to break in 2018.
Splendid.
You heard it here first.
I'm pleased to hear it. And the final question, I hate to bring up the dirty question of money in this matter, but will it if we have all these players coming in and they get in there, can you see it again? Presumably, when it starts off, it's going to be a very expensive
Yes, indeed.
experience. Could you see the prices dropping down to sort of, the same as you might pay to fly to Australia at the moment or something like that?
They certainly will drop. I mean, and that's part of the business plan. There are going to be some people who are going to pay silly money up front. I mean, I want to get up there before I die. So, yeah, I'm not going to hang around as the queue gets longer and longer. But I would certainly say once you built the hardware, once you built your space plane and you got your spaceport, I mean, simply you're doing maintenance and filling up the fuel, basically. I know that's oversimplistic, but the big capital costs will come up front. So, yeah, the price will come down and the competition is going to push the price down. So I think in 10, 15 years' time, you're going to be saying to yourself, okay, what do I do this summer? I could go on a cruise around the Mediterranean for 2 weeks, or I could go into space. I mean, I think it is going to be that choice.